This is the Louie T Network.
Draft Zone. Draft Zone.
Welcome, you are in the
Draft
lab room. I am your host,
Zone.
Lou. Thank you for joining me here on this program. It's long-awaited, never duplicated 2014 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. We're going with the Who's Next format. So, who's got next? Got to be the first to leave your comment in the bottom of the comment section when this video has been uploaded, stating the team that you want to see next and the phrase next. If you don't have both of those components, you're not going to be next. So this is the draft wrap-up series. For those of you who have seen this before, you've been here with me, you know the rules to the game, so just sit back and play. For those of you who have not, I'll quickly explain to you how this works. Simply put, every team in the National Football League has a draft and a draft class. Here in the lab room, during the draft wrap-up series, I am going to break down every single team, every single player that was selected in the 2014 NFL Draft, team by team. We're going to use our baseball grading scale, single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the draft wrap-up series, as we cannot tell how these players are going to pan out in the National Football League. So we're going to grade them up, and we're going to move on out. And so we're going to start here in the draft wrap-up series with the team that I felt had the best 2014 NFL draft. And if you're cheating and you're looking behind me, you know it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's time for the Steelers to get back to prominence. 2 8-8 seasons back-to-back isn't Pittsburgh Steelers-like. And so I think this is a draft that's going to go a long way towards helping them get back to where the Steelers normally are, as one of the better teams in the AFC Conference, and one of the better teams, if not the best team, in the AFC North division. Let's get straight to the big board. You know I've got my handy dandy pointer, and I've got the big board for my assistants. Let's get it going here in the lab room draft wrap-up series. So you start with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 selections in the 2014 NFL Draft. And so let's get right to business. You start with the first round pick, number 15 overall, Ryan Shazier, linebacker out of Ohio State, the Ohio State University. Here's a guy that at first blush, I thought that he was going to go a little bit later on in the first round, maybe around 21 to the Packers was where he was going to start coming into play, is what I thought. But the thing that I love about the draft process is the part after the draft where you hear all of the things that transpired during the draft that we don't have access to, that we don't have information to, and we're not privy to. And one of those things that happened was the Steelers had to take Ryan Shazier. If they were high on him, they had to take him at 15 because the Cowboys, who picked right after the Steelers in the first round at 16, they were already talking to the agent and handler of Ryan Shazier to let him know, hey, we're going to take you with the 16th pick. If you're there, you're going to be our selection. And so the Steelers had to swoop in and get Shazier when they did at 15. And so I find those kind of stories very fascinating. And so you look at Ryan Shazier, and when the Steelers are good, when the Steelers are the Pittsburgh Steelers, when they're the Blitzburgh Steelers, the linebackers, the front seven is usually the catalyst for them being a really good football team. It's almost all but impossible to run on them. They're getting pressure on your quarterback from all different angles. Dick LeBeau is really chalking up some blitzes and really coming after the quarterback. You haven't seen that of late. The Steelers have been very, very slow up front, very old up front, very banged up, a lot of injuries, a lot of guys not producing at the level that you're used to. And so it was time for a change, a time for a breath of fresh air in Pittsburgh. And you start with Ryan Shazier. Look, this guy is an athletic freak. When you look at him, it looks like he's chiseled out of stone. It looks like someone carved him up. And if you want to see the body of a Greek goddess, you look at a guy like Ryan Shazier. I mean, I'm guessing the guy has less than 2% of body fat. I mean, it's ridiculous how chiseled this guy is. And he's not one of these, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane type of guys. I mean, the guy plays the way he looks. He's explosive. He's extremely fast. The only thing that he needs to do, and this will come with experience. This isn't something that I'm going to knock him for, because I feel like this will come as he gets comfortable with the position, learns all of the different things that happens when you play the linebacker position. And it's just trusting his eyes. See it, diagnose it, read it, and go. Read and react. Don't allow the action in the fight to be taken to you. You go and dictate what you want to happen on that particular play. You read screen, you diagnose it, trust your eyes, go read and react. Go and try to break up that screen before it gets started. Zoom in there, get through the traffic and the garbage before those offensive linemen get to set up. You get in there, he's got the speed. He can run sideline to sideline. He blitzed at Ohio State an awful lot, and he was great at it. He's a guy that knifes into the backfield. He uses his speed to his advantage. Some of these guys that are, smaller linebackers, because I would love to see him put on another 10 pounds of muscle. And I don't even know if that's possible. I just told you the guy's probably about a 2% body fat type of guy. But I'd love to see him get to about 241, 242, and have that be his playing weight, because I don't want him to get too big and have it slow him down. But if he could get, because right now he's about a 231, 234, somewhere in there, pound linebacker. I feel like that's a little light, in the pants. You can get away with that in the National Football League, but I would much rather him be 241 pounds, 242 pounds, and have him play at that weight. I think that's a better weight that's conducive for taking the punishment and the banging that goes on in the trenches in the front seven in the National Football League. But this guy is an absolute freak of nature. The guy can run. The guy has all of the athletic attributes that you look for in an explosive playmaking linebacker. He's going to be out on the edges. You're going to ask him to get pressure on the quarterback. You're going to ask him to drop into coverage, both of which he can do equally well. And so this guy, for me, this is a no doubt of the Steelers knew what they were getting here when they drafted Ryan Shazier. This is an absolute, no doubt about it, home run. He's going to come in, and you're going to feel really good about him and Jason Worlds being out on the edges. Jarvis Jones, if he can get his act together, you put him on the field as well, and you're building something again along that linebacking core. And if Jarvis Jones doesn't work out, fine. You've got two guys that you feel good about on the edges in Worlds and Shazier. If Jarvis Jones does work out, then you can put him on the field somewhere and feel good about what he brings to the table. But Shazier is a special specimen. A guy that you put in and you devise ways for him to get to the quarterback. You move him around. You don't just allow him to be on the right side of the defense, left side of the offense. You don't allow him to just be somewhere where you can figure out where he's going to be and block him. You move him around. You blitz him in the A gap. You blitz him out of the C gap. You blitz him off the edge. You drop him into coverage. You want to really have teams in a quandary, having to block Ryan Shazier. And Dick LeBeau is going to have fun. He's got a new toy, and this guy is explosive in every sense of the word. The Pittsburgh Steelers, with the 15th pick in the first round, hit an absolute home run. You can put it on the board. Yeah! Pittsburgh Steelers, home run. Let's go ahead and mark that up. Home run for the Pittsburgh Steelers, first round. Pick 15, Ryan Shazier, linebacker out of Ohio State. We move on to the second round. pick 46, defensive end out of Notre Dame, Stephon Tuitt. This is a great pickup for the Steelers. And this is why I love this draft for the Steelers, because they're getting players at positions of need that are really good football players. And you want to talk about a guy that has tremendous ability, and it's all about getting the most out of Stephon Tuitt. If you get this guy playing at a high level on every single snap, he has the potential to be the best 5 technique in the National Football League, hands down. He's got that type of ability, okay? And so when I watch Stephon Tuitt on tape, and I'm watching him, and look, I didn't have to do a lot of homework on Stephon Tuitt. I'm a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan. I watch a lot of their games. And so I've been watching this guy for the last 3 seasons. And so I know what Stephon Tuitt is as a football player. He's a guy that when he's on, he's the best player on the field defensively. He's that good. But you have to get him engaged mentally. And from a standpoint where his conditioning is where it needs to be. When he's tired, like most defensive linemen, when he gets tired, you get lapses in concentration, and you get plays where he's just standing up and he's just occupying space. You don't want that. You want this guy engaged in the football game. You want this guy to be fresh. And so he's part of a defensive rotation. You want this guy in there. He can be a 3-down defensive lineman because he can get to the quarterback. He's a guy that can get pressure on the quarterback as well as stop the run. He's not a guy you got to take off the field on 3rd downs. He's not a guy that can't be on the field on 1st and 2nd down. He can stop the run and get pressure from that 5 technique position. You just got to make sure that you monitor his snaps and you keep him fresh, because when he gets tired, that's when you get the laziness. That's when you get a guy that's just standing there, that's allowed to be blocked. He's not getting off of blocks. He's not stacking and shedding. He's not doing all of the things that makes him a dynamic football player. But when the guy is on, I'm telling you right now, he's a tremendous talent. And there's a play that exemplifies just how athletic this guy is. Go watch the Navy game, okay? Go watch the Navy game. There's a sack. And if you know Navy, if you know college football, you know the Navy midshipmen, they run a triple option. So everybody on the field, essentially for them in the backfield, is athletic. They can run and they're fast. And so on this particular play, they run the triple option, and the quarterback gets hit before he can pitch the football, and he fumbles. Stephon Tuitt scoops the ball up, and in a smooth, seamless transition, takes off. And we're talking 70 yards here. We're talking about 75 yards. This isn't a 15-yard touchdown return, not a 40. We're talking 70 some odd yards. And the running back for Navy and the quarterback are both in heavy pursuit. Do you think they catch Stephon Tuitt? Absolutely not. The dude put on the burners. And when I say he put on the burners, I mean he put the jets on. He took off and he scored a touchdown. I mean, the guy is so athletically gifted. It's not even funny. When he's healthy, when he's fresh, when he's mentally stimulated, he can be one of the best. And I expect the Steelers to get that out of him. I absolutely love this pick, because here's a guy with 1st-round talent that you got in the 2nd round. And we're not talking early 2nd. You got him in the middle of the 2nd round. This is great value. So not only is he potentially going to be a great football player for you and a great fit in your 3-4 defensive scheme, this is a guy that also has the talent to match. And so where you got him and the football player that you're getting, to me, go ahead and put it on the board. Yeah, this is another home run. Give me another one. Steelers 2 for 2 in the home run department in their first 2 at-bats in this draft. Steelers really doing some good work, getting Ryan Shazier and Stephon Tuitt in the first 2 rounds. For a defense that I feel like needs to be revamped, that's the way you want to start off this draft if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers. And to me, these are 2 day 1 starters right here. If these guys come in, stay healthy throughout training camp, and pick up the defensive playbook, which I feel they can, those are 2 defensive starters day 1. Unlike Jarvis Jones, who was a little bit disappointing last year, these guys are going to come in immediate impacts right off the bat. You move on to the 3rd round. Pick 97, running back out of Kent State, Dre Archer. For me, this is my favorite pick of the Steelers draft in 2014. So you already know where I'm going with this, but let's get there first. And so you look at Dre Archer, and the thing that I always beat the Steelers up for, this is the same thing I beat the Steelers for up last year. And if you go back and watch the draft wrap-up that I did of the Steelers last season, I beat them up for this. The lack of speed that I saw. Last year, I was disappointed that they drafted Le'Veon Bell. Now, look, Le'Veon Bell actually proved to be a good back, and I didn't say he wasn't going to be. I just said he lacked top-end speed, which is what the Steelers annually lack in the backfield. Top-end speed. I just want to see the Steelers, as a team, get faster. And that's what this draft, for me, has done. This team has gotten tremendously faster and athletic on both sides of the football in this draft, and that's why I love it so much, because this Steelers team needs an infusion of speed, and they're getting it in the first 3 picks. Hell, even the first 4 picks. We'll get there when we get there, but let's talk about Dre Archer, because I love this guy. I love what he brings to the table, and I love how he's going to fit into the Steelers' offensive and special teams game plan. So, Dre Archer is a guy out of Kent State, and for me, I didn't even bother with the 2013 tape. Because to me, the best of Dre Archer was in 2012 when the guy had like 26 touchdowns and he was all over the place. It had about 4 returns for a touchdown in the returns game. Had another like 19 rushing touchdowns, a couple of receiving. The guy was everywhere. Might have been the best all-around player in college football in 2012. And so I went back and watched the 2012 tape because I think that's the Dre Archer you're getting in Pittsburgh. And this guy's dynamic. I mean, in every sense of the word. He's look, from day one, you're getting a special teams demon. You're getting a guy that is going to take your special teams unit to the next level. I mean, we're talking Devin Hester type of ability in terms of kickoff. And so from that standpoint, your team is that much better on special teams. That's number one. Number two, he's not a workhorse back. You're not asking him to do that. You have Le'Veon Bell and all the other guys in your backfield for that. And so no need for him to be a guy that has to tote the rock, 15 times in a game. But you do want him to touch it 15 times in each and every single contest, if at all possible. And I love Dre Archer because the thing the Steelers have lacked for such a long time in their backfield is speed. And he's going to bring that to the table. And he's not a guy that's going to break a lot of tackles, but out in space. If you can devise ways for him to get the football. And I don't want to limit him to being a running back because, you know what? I love guys like Dre Archer. There's so few of these. If it were up to me, there'd be a guy like Dre Archer on every single football team because they bring an element that you can't coach to the football field. And he's more of a playmaker. He's more of a Percy Harvin type of player. He's more, and I loved the little smallish receiver out in Cincinnati. He's now in Cleveland. And he was a guy that I thought you could use in a multitude of ways. And those guys, they give you fits. And Dre Archer is one of those guys. You can put him in the backfield. You can hand him the football. You can give him a toss. But you can also flank him out wide, send him on some jet sweeps. You can use him on reverses. You can split him out in the slot. He can run routes, and you can cause matchup problems because if you start him out in the backfield, you motion him out, he's being guarded by a linebacker that's not faster than him, that's not as fast as him. He's going to win that matchup. You have him stick his foot in the ground and go. And if it's man-to-man coverage, he's going to win every single time. If you flank him out, he can run go routes. He can run corner routes. He's going to win those 9 times out of 10. And he's a guy that you move around on the field and defenses are going to have a hard time stopping him. And the only problem I have with Dre Archer, and people want to talk about his size. Damn the size. That's what makes him who he is, okay? Him being 5'8" and a $170 is what makes him the dangerous playmaker that he is. You're not going to hear me complain about his size because his size is what makes him different from all the rest. If he was 6'4", running that same 4'2", 640, then he'd be a receiver and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But because this guy is 5'8", and he's a scat back, and he's a jitterbug, and he's multifaceted, that's what makes him the animal and the dangerous secret weapon that he's going to become for this Steelers team. The problem I have with him, and there's only one, catch the ball when you're wide open. Catch the football when you're open, okay? He's not a guy that's going to catch the football necessarily all the time. Now, And Ben will figure this out. I don't want to squeeze the football to this guy in traffic. I'll get myself in trouble. It'll get batted into the air. He'll bobble it. It'll get picked off. But what I'm asking Dre Archer to do is when you're open, when you win one-on-one matchups, when you run that Z out and lose that defender around 5 yards and you're running 7 yards up the field, catch the football. When you run that slant route and you lose that defender at the top, at the stem of that route, catch the football in space, in stride. Please don't drop the football when you're open. It's going to be tough when you're in traffic, and I get those. But when you're open, there's too many times on tape when he's wide open, he drops the football. If he catches the football when he's open, this guy is going to be dynamite. Dynamite! And I'm going to tell you what. For the way that I feel like the Steelers are going to have the ability to use him, to me, of all the players in the draft, and I'm talking every team, every player that was drafted in 2014, he can have the biggest impact from a special teams and an offensive standpoint if the Steelers use him correctly. He's not a guy that you want to have 25 touches in any given game. Again, I just told you he's 5'8", well, $175 or so. You don't want this guy being overexposed to punishment. He won't be able to play every week. But if you get him 15 touches, and that includes the ones that he gets on special teams, say he touches it in the running game 5 or 7 times, and he catches it out of the backfield another 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times, and he gets 3 kickoffs, I'll take that every day of the week. That's how I want to see Dre Archer used. If you use him that way, you got yourself a bona fide stud. In the 3rd round, pick 97, running back out of Kent State. Dre Archer is a home run. In the 3rd round for the Pittsburgh Steelers, 3 for 3. I mean, how can you bat better than that? I'm talking about back-to-back-to-back jacks for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We move on to the 4th round. 118th overall selection. Wide receiver out of Clemson, Martavius Bryant. Now, here's a guy overshadowed by Sammy Watkins, but this was an easy watch for me. And I didn't have to do a lot of research or homework on this guy because I watched tape on Sammy Watkins, and while I was there, guess who else I saw? Martavius Bryant. So I didn't have to go back and do extra homework on this guy. I've seen plenty of tape on Martavius Bryant, and here's my thoughts on him, and here's my findings. The guy has elite size. I don't have to tell you that. 6'4", about 215, long, wiry frame, long limbs. I mean, the guy has vines for arms. I don't have to tell you all of that. The guy's long, okay? You get it. 4.40 speed. The guy is electrifying with the amount of speed. And it's straight line speed. It's not change of direction speed. It's straight line speed, but it's speed nonetheless. What have I talked about the Steelers needing to acquire? Speed! That guy brings it to the table. And in that package at 6'4", you got to love it if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. So check and check. Height and speed. Height, weight, speed specimen here. But here's my problem with Martavius Bryant. He actually runs solid routes. Now, he's going to have to become a more polished receiver, meaning he needs to run better routes. But he gets in and out of breaks for his size. You know how guys are when they're really big. It's hard for them to break down and get out of their breaks. I didn't see that with him. He runs pretty crisp routes, and so he's able to create separation by the routes that he runs. Not to mention, he's sporting a 4.40, so the guy can create separation just off of the way that he runs. My problem with him is he doesn't catch the football clean enough for me. I watched too many times where this guy's double catching footballs, a lot of body catches. I want to see him extend those big hands and engulf the football and catch it, snatch it out of the air. And again, for some guys, that just doesn't come natural to them. Catch the ball how you got to catch it, but a lot of times, you let that ball get into your body, it's going to beat you up, all right? And there's times where he's double and triple catching the football. You get away with that in college, especially when you're Martavius Bryant and you get a guy on a double move. And you know, the corners in college football, a lot of them are suspect. And so you run a double move, they bite on a double move, and you've got 4 yards of separation, and the guy's fast. So if you bite on a double move, and he's already eaten up your cushion, he's by you. And so you've got time in college football with the cornerback play and guys being wide open. You can double and triple catch a football. In the NFL, the difference between you making a huge play and it being incomplete is the ability for you to catch it the first time, for you to get it right the first time. He's not going to have the ability to double catch and bobble and regather the football. He's going to have to catch it the first time. I need to see him go up, catch the football away from his frame. Make those catches. Look, you're 6'4", you got a long frame. You're going to be bigger than every defender that you see. I need you to go up, high point the football away from your frame, and catch it cleanly. When you separate and Ben lays it out there perfectly for you, and it hits you in your hands, I don't need you bobbling the football because that defender is coming with a chop on the arm, and that football is going to hit the turf, and that's going to be a missed opportunity instead of a big play. So if Martavis Bryant can clean that up, this guy is an absolute steal in the 4th round. The height, the weight, the speed, the ability. He's got some maturity issues, but I don't worry about that in the Pittsburgh Steelers locker room. That's one thing I don't worry about in this locker room with the Steelers. They're going to get him in there. There are veterans. There's the coaching staff. All of these guys are going to make sure that he's straightened up and he flies right. I don't have a problem with his issues off the field. He'll be fine. I like this pickup because it gives the Steelers another element and dimension of speed that they lacked. For the Steelers in the 4th round, pick 118, Martavis Bryant for me. And this is strictly a potential grade that I'm giving him. Man, really, he's a double. But because of the potential I see out of this guy and what I feel like he can bring to the table, this is a triple. The Steelers, because of Martavis Bryant's speed, they were able to leg out a triple on this one. They got a 3-bagger here, a triple in the 4th round for the Steelers. You can't hit much better than that. For average, home run, home run, home run, triple in the first 4 picks. I'm telling you, I'm loving this draft. Like McDonald's, I'm loving it. We move on to the 5th round, pick 157, cornerback out of Arizona, Shaquille Richardson. And here's a guy that I got mixed feelings about because I went and I watched the tape and I wasn't impressed. Of all the draft picks, he's the one that I'm a little iffy on here. And I don't know about him. A lot of off coverage. That's number one. Look, if you're a Steelers corner, I need you to be aggressive. I need you to be physical. A guy like Kyle Fuller, a guy like Dinner, to me, fits the mold of a Pittsburgh Steelers corner. A guy that's going to be physical, a guy that's going to be in your face, willing tackler. All of these things are traits that Pittsburgh Steelers corners normally hold and possess. Shaquille Richardson, for me, he's not overly aggressive. When he's being blocked, you would think in watching the tape that every receiver that was blocking him was Hines Ward. I mean, that's how bad he was at getting off of blocks, shedding blockers, and getting to the football. He doesn't diagnose running plays well. He's dropping back into coverage, and even when he's in man coverage, he's not diagnosing the play as a run. He's out of the screen. I mean, the running back is literally 3 yards up the field before he even shows back up into the picture. I have a problem with that, okay? Another problem that I saw with him, he's playing 7, 10 yards off the ball on just about every snap. So the hitch is there, the slant is there, every short route you could imagine. He's not even close. I mean, he's giving up free yards. I don't know if he doesn't trust. What I saw and what I usually attribute that to is you don't trust your abilities. You don't trust your speed. He's a fast guy. He shouldn't be afraid to come up and challenge receivers. And so I was disappointed. I watched the USC tape. I watched the Oregon tape. And I just didn't like what I saw out of this guy. He didn't strike me as a guy that I felt like could come in, have an immediate impact. And to me, cornerback and quarterback are the 2 hardest positions to come in and have an immediate impact on in day one. Okay, and so he's already behind the 8 ball because he's a corner, and that's a tough position to come and make the transition at. And not to mention you're a 5th round pick, nothing's guaranteed to you. Add to the fact that he plays timid at times, I'm a little iffy on this guy. I'm not sold on Shaquille Robinson here at 5 now. He gets the proper coaching, and he's doing some things. Look, I think all of the tools that's necessary for this guy to be a solid corner in this league are there. He possesses them. He's long. He's athletic. He can make plays on the football. You saw that in the Oregon game. But I want to see more from this guy. I left watching his film feeling incomplete. Like I'm missing something. There's a component here that I'm just not seeing that he's lacking. And so for me, this is a single right here. I'm not really feeling this pick all that much. He's going to have to win me over right now. This is a one-bagger for the Pittsburgh Steelers. In the 5th round, cornerback out of Arizona, Shaquille Richardson. I'm just not feeling him right now. The tape doesn't really do me any justice. It doesn't really make me feel good about this guy playing at an extremely high level for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. You go to another 5th round pick for the Steelers, 173rd overall, offensive tackle out of Vandy, Wesley Johnson. Now, this is a guy that I do like, and I did like what I saw on tape from him. And is he overly athletic? No. But I'll tell you what he brings to the table. We know the Steelers' history with the offensive line and them having injury issues and shuffling guys all around. And this seems to be a yearly thing. So when the Steelers draft offensive linemen, you're looking for guys that are versatile. And Wesley Johnson is guilty of something that I like to call Pam Mon. Proficient at many, master of none. And simply what that means is he's really good at a lot of things. Jack of all trades. But he's not great at any of them. This guy's played every position on the offensive line, center, over the left tackle. So he's played left tackle, which is where he made most of his starts at Vandy, left guard, and at center. So, again, another easy evaluation here because I watched a lot of Jordan Matthews tape. Guess what team Jordan Matthews plays for? Plays for the Vanderbilt Commodores. So does Wesley Johnson. So, again, while you're evaluating one player, you say, hey, let's kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I was able to watch him a little bit, and what I saw from him is a guy that is extremely versatile. Like I just mentioned, can play multiple positions on the offensive line. I don't think that his best position is going to be tackle in the National Football League. I think he's a better guard than he is a tackle, and I'll give you another nugget. I think he's a better center than a guard. So that tells you where I think he should be. I don't know what the Steelers have in mind for him. I think he could easily be a center in this league. You have Pouncey, though, so I don't know if center is the best fit for him. I'm thinking guard might be ultimately where you decide to plug this guy. You got the Castro. You could use another guard. I could see this guy being out at right tackle. He's not a left tackle, which is where he played at Vandy. I don't think he's fast enough. I don't think he moves well enough to be a left tackle per se. But I definitely could see this guy being a right tackle. He finishes blocks. He's a guy that's going to try hard. He's going to compete. He will not always win. He's a little lighter than you would like your tackle to be. He can be very susceptible to bull rushes. I watched the Georgia tape, and I saw guys with one arm take them and drive them back about 4 or 5 yards into the backfield. That's not what you want. So at guard, I think he's a little bit more suited to be able to help. The guys can help. The center can help him a little bit, give him a little bit of a chip, and he's going to be fine. He can pull. He can get to that next level, get out there. And Vanderbilt's offense, the thing that I was really excited about watching Wesley Johnson is they throw a lot of bubble screens to Jordan Matthews, a lot of quick hitters out in space, a lot of field stretchers per se, a lot of plays that are outside the numbers, that are quick hitters, that they're trying to get the football. They run a lot of quick game at Vandy. And so his job was to get out quickly, push off of the defensive tackle, and get out quick. Or just get out. As soon as the ball snaps, just fire off the ball, get outside. And his job was to block down on that corner. And he did it successfully. So he has movement skills, functional movement skills. He can go out there and get the job done. He can get to the second level. I like the guy. And I think with some work, with some technique, with some coaching, I don't know if he's a day one starter. But I tell you what, with time, I think this is a guy that you feel really good about. As a backup in the short term, long term, I could see this guy squeezing in into this lineup down the road. It wouldn't surprise me if by week 13 this guy was starting at guard. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. But I love this pick. I think it's a really good pick, really good value for a guy that can play multiple positions on your offensive line. Again, proficient at many, master of none. Wesley Johnson in the 5th round, 173rd pick overall, is a double for me for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 5th round. So I thought you got better value with your second 5th round pick than you did your first. We move on to the 6th round, 192nd selection in this draft. Linebacker out of UCLA, Jordan Zumwalt. And this is a guy that I love to watch on tape. And again, much like Martavius Bryant and Stephon Tuitt and Wesley Johnson, easy evaluation here, easy eval, because again, he played with Anthony Barr right next to him on that UCLA defense. And so while you're watching Barr, and this was one of those guys that you're watching tape of Anthony Barr, and 35 keeps flashing into the screen. Who is this guy? That's what you got to ask. Who is this guy? Who is that masked man? It's Jordan Zumwalt. And so looking at this guy, he's everywhere. And I think people give him a hard time because maybe he's not as athletic and he's not as strong as he should be. His frame kind of lends itself to him, this guy being a lot more physical than what he is. But he makes tackles. He makes plays. He gets to the football. I think he diagnoses plays very well. He's always in the action. He's always going to look for contact. He's not afraid of it. And so I like Jordan Zumwalt. I think he's going to help you on special teams. I think he's going to come in. He's going to compete. Last year, you had a rash of injuries at the inside linebacker position. I think he can play inside linebacker. Right now, I don't know if the Steelers have this guy classified as an outside linebacker, which I don't like if he is in fact an outside linebacker. I think his position and his home for the Steelers team ultimately will be inside. And I could easily see, if you have injuries like you did last year, I could easily see Jordan Zumwalt stepping in and getting snaps, starting inside this defense at one of these interior linebacker positions. This guy is smart. He's instinctive. He gets to the football. Again, he's not going to run through. Unlike Shazier, who runs through people. Shazier shows up to the party with very cruel and bad intentions. I mean, he's looking to lay somebody out. Zumwalt is just looking to get you down on the ground. And guess what? Both of them count the same. All right? Now, the difference between Shazier and Zumwalt is that if it's 3rd and 3 and Shazier meets you in the hole and you've got 2 yards at that point, you're not getting the third. He's going to hit you. If he's got a full head of steam, you're going down and you're going to be short of the line of the game. With Zumwalt, yeah, look, he's going to get there. But if that guy, that back is powerful enough, he'll take him for a ride and pick up 2 extra yards and get the first down. And that's the difference between a guy like Shazier and a guy like Zumwalt, is that the frames are very similar. I mean, Zumwalt is 6'4", about 230. Shazier is about 6'3", 240. But the differences stop there because Shazier is a more explosive and dynamic and a much more aggressive athlete. Zumwalt is instinctive and he can get to the football, but when he gets there, he's not as explosive. He's not looking to run through an offensive football player. He's looking to get you down onto the ground. But hey, look, you won't hear me complain. Give me the guy that's going to get you on the ground 7 times out of 10. I'll take that guy over the guy that's coming in aggressive like a heat-seeking missile, but he doesn't see what he's hitting and he's missing all the time. Give me the guy that's going to make the tackle. And Jordan Zumwalt is that guy. He'll help you on special teams immediately if he does, in fact, make this roster. And again, wouldn't surprise me that if you have injuries and some guys that are disappointing you, I can see Jordan Zumwalt finding a way into the lineup and getting some meaningful snaps on his football team. In the 6th round, pick 192, linebacker out of UCLA. Another double for me. I mean, I really feel like that's a solid pick in the 6th round. You get good value there, a guy that's going to help you on special teams. And again, in a pinch, can start for you. I like the move. I like the pick. I like Jordan Zumwalt in the 6th round, pick 192 for the Steelers. Second 6th round pick, 215th overall selection, defensive tackle out of Tennessee, Daniel McCullers. Big, burly, physical guy out of Tennessee. When I say big, I'm talking about a big, big, big man. 6'7", about 350. Yes, I just said not 350, 350. When you 6'7", 350, woo! That's a big man. And when you're watching the Tennessee tape, it's easy to identify who Daniel McCullers is, who D-Mac is. And when you see D-Mac, you know it. And he's a big guy, space eater, hard to move. But this is the thing that I have a problem with. I'm going to get right to the deficiencies because there's a lot to like here. But there's one glaring problem here with him. And this is the thing that I think makes him a 6th round pick. Because when you think 6'7", 350, you're thinking of a big sloppy guy, but this guy is lean, he's big, and he looks the part of a big physical defensive tackle. And at Tennessee, they ran a 4-3, so he was running that 3 technique, that 4 technique inside, but I think he's going to be one of these guys that you look to plug in the middle of your defense, if in fact he's doing that, and in a defensive rotation. And he's going to eat up space, he's going to eat up blockers, and I think he can do that well. But this is the thing that drives me crazy with D-Mac. You'll be watching a game, and, you know, they'll run at D-Mac, you know, and maybe they put a double team on him, maybe he's being blocked single. Either way, his problem, and this is a problem that you see with guys this size all the time, is that they stand up straight. When you're 6'7", first of all, it's hard to bend at 6'7", all right? Let's be honest. You're 6'7", it's hard to get down in a three-point stance. But when they do, their initial movement is straight up. You know, it's not straight ahead. It's not keep the pad level even and low and a low center of gravity. When you're 6'7", your first initial movement, usually out of habit, is to stand straight up. And when you do that at the next level, you know, and even in college, you could see that this was going to be a problem. These guys get their hands up under your pads and they drive you back. And these are big guys. Just because you're 6'7", 350 doesn't mean that you're going to be an immovable object. These guys across from you, they're just as big, they're just as strong, and if you give them the opportunity to gain the upper hand by getting leverage on you, by being able to get their hands up underneath your pads, they're going to drive you back. And that is why offensive linemen sometimes have success against Daniel McCullers, because he stands straight up at 6'7", 350. It shouldn't be that easy to move. There's times where I got to do one of these double take moves where I'm watching the film and I'm like, is that D-Mac on skates? And so I got to put on the binoculars and I'm zooming in and I'm like, is that D-Mac? Damn, 5 yards down the field? Yeah, that's D-Mac being pushed out of the play because he's standing straight up. And I watched the Alabama tape from 2012 and I watched a couple of other games and LSU. And here's a guy that's standing up and he's allowing tackles and guards and centers to get their hands up under his pads and drive him back. And they're moving him out of the way. And sometimes it's not even two guys. It's just one. I mean, Barrett Jones was having his way with him in the Alabama tape that I watched. And so he's going to have to work on that. If they can work on him keeping his pad levels down. And you would love to see him be able to collapse the pocket a little bit more. But I don't have a problem with him when he bull rushes and he's able to keep a low center of gravity. I've seen him get pressure and collapse the pocket. So I really don't have a problem with him there. He has good movement skills up and down the line. You know what, though? Another thing that bothers me while we're on the subject of him being more effective is I call it pod. When I'm talking about defensive linemen, especially these big space eaters, I call it pod. It's called the paw of doom. And you got to have pod. You got to have that paw of doom when you're one of these big space-eating two-gap defensive tackles where guys are going to be holding you, they're going to be grabbing you, and you're not going to be able to get off of blocks a lot of the times. When backs think that it's okay to run behind their guard and center combination, you got to be able to stick that paw doom out there. Just stick it out there and grab that back, and he's got to stop in his tracks. The great ones have a paw of doom, okay? When Vince Wilfork is taking on some blockers or a blocker, and you have him blocked, and he can't get off the block, guess what he's going to do? Paw of doom. Boom, you stop right there. Help's coming on the way, and guess what? A run that was blocked for 5 yards, you're only getting 1. You're only getting 2 because the paw of doom stopped you in your tracks, or at least slowed you down to the point where the brigade could come and they could clean up the play. He didn't do that enough for me. I want to see more of the paw of doom from D-Mac. If Daniel McCullers can keep his center of gravity lower, keep his pad level lower, and establish the paw of doom, and that's how you do the paw of doom. that guy has some potential to be a very good interior defensive lineman in the National Football League. I like D-Mac just because of his sheer size. You can't teach 6'7", 350 pounds. You can't teach that. The guy just stands up, puts his hands up. He's going to bat down some balls and get some deflections, maybe force some interceptions. He's not going to get you a lot of sacks on the quarterback. That's not a really huge part of his game. Not going to get you a lot of sacks. I think he had a career total of a sack and a half. So that's not his game. But what he will do is eat up space, take on blockers, allow your linebackers to roam freely, make plays. I want to see him make some plays of his own, though. I want to see him get in there, shed blockers, get in the backfield. I want to see him push some linemen back into the backfield and blow up plays and be disruptive. He doesn't necessarily have to be the one making the tackle, but I want to see him affect the play more often. But with all that being said, I still think this is a solid double in the gap. 6th round, 215th overall selection. Steelers in the 6th round, still hitting for a hell of an average with another double with a defensive tackle out of Tennessee, D-Mac, a.k.a. Daniel McCullers. So you finish up the draft in the 7th round, 230th overall selection, tight end out of UMass, Rob Blanchflower. Just with a name like Rob Blanchflower, he needs to make this team. Somebody's got to go. He's got to make the team because his name is Rob Blanchflower, okay? But all jokes aside, Rob Blanchflower, for me, is a guy that can catch the football a little bit, watch a little bit of tape on him, and he's a little bit faster than you. You look at him at 6'4", 260, and you're thinking, okay, another one of these guys that probably is a blocker, not going to catch a lot of passes. Au contraire, my friend. This guy can catch the football, okay? If you throw it to him, he can make a play on it, and he's a little bit faster than many people give him credit for. I was actually pleasantly surprised at some of the things he was able to do once he got the football in his hands. He can get up the seam, catch it in traffic, and make guys miss and get up the field. So he brings an element of being able to make some plays in the middle of the field a little bit. He can block. I think there's room for improvement there as a blocker, but I think he's a guy that can come in and help you if he can make this team on special teams and can help you as a run blocking tight end and show the ability to catch an occasional pass or two. He can crack this roster. The Steelers have an abundance of tight ends, but again, Heath Miller isn't going to be around forever. And you've got other guys out there that are similar to him in size and body type, but I think that he's a guy that can make this roster if he comes in and shows the team that, hey, I possess a couple of traits that some of these other tight ends, frankly, don't. I know you guys have Paulson out there. He's more of a pass-catching tight end than he is a run-blocking tight end. So maybe he comes in and shows them, hey, I can catch the football just as good as David Paulson can, but I can also block better than he can. Maybe that makes a guy like Paulson a little bit expendable. You know, you've got a couple of guys on this team that he could come in and challenge them for a roster spot. Again, when you're a 7th round pick, when you're a 6th round pick, nothing is guaranteed to you. You have to come in and show the coaching staff that you deserve an opportunity. But Rob Blanchflower is a guy that I feel like will show them, hey, I'm worth taking a chance on. If you give me the opportunity, I'll show you that you made the right decision. I like this guy. I think he brings a lot to the table. He's tough. He can catch the football a little bit better than I think people give him credit for. And to me, he was one of the better players, if not the best player on this UMass team. And so, again, solid pick here. I'm going double. In the 7th round, yes, I'm going double for tight end Rob Blanchflower out of UMass. And so you look at the totality of this Steelers draft, and there's no wonder why this was my favorite draft. The first 3 picks are home runs. I mean, are you kidding me? Who's doing that? Who's going back to back to back jacks and then following that up with a triple in the 4th round? Not many teams can lay claim to that, but the Steelers have done that. And so you look at the entire draft for the Steelers. Home run, home run, home run. So that's 12, triple 15, 16. I'm not in love with the Shaquille Richardson pick in the 5th round. That's a single. 16, you double it up for Johnson and Zimwalt and McCullers and Blanchflower. So that's 8. You couple that with 16, that's 24. You divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's call it a solid triple for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the draft. A 3-bagger. That's rare. I don't give out triples often. But the Pittsburgh Steelers definitely earned it. They've got a nice collection of toughness, athleticism, speed, playmakers, and a group of youthful players that will infuse some young, hungry talent on a roster that every year we keep saying to ourselves, this roster is old. The Steelers are getting, and these guys, a lot of these guys are going to make this team. That's the beauty of this draft. You know, some of these drafts, the team drafts 9 players, only 5 of them, 4 of them make the roster. I'm telling you right now, the first 4 picks locks to make this roster. And I'm telling you right now, 3 of the 4 at the bottom, minimum, are going to make this roster. I can see McCullers, Zimwalt, Johnson. I can see all 3 of those guys making the roster right now. I'm iffy on Shaquille Richardson. Blanchflower being a 7th round pick means he's a long shot. But out of 9 players, I could easily see 7 of these guys making the roster. So that's a beautiful draft by the Steelers. Absolutely love it. And so, for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 2014 NFL Draft, it's a triple for the 2014 NFL Draft wrap-up of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know how this goes. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me, and come back soon as we continue to march through the whole entire National Football League, the 2014 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. See you next time.
Draft Zone.
Like the content? Want more? Sub up.